Welcome to today's X Space on Navigating the Future Web3 Opportunities and Challenges. I'm Vera, and I'm thrilled to have you all here as we dive into the exciting discussion. So, can everyone hear me well?
Yes.
Great, thank you. Thank you. So let's talk about Web3. Web3 represents a bold new chapter in the evolution of the internet. It's not just a technological shift, but a revolutionary change in how we think about digital interactions, privacy, and data ownership. Today, we'll be exploring the immense opportunities Web3 offers, as well as the challenges we need to overcome to make this vision a reality. Today, we have a fantastic lineup of speakers who are eager to share their insights and expertise. Their perspective will help us understand the potential of Web3 and how it can transform industries. So, thank you for joining us on this journey today, and let's make this a lively and engaging discussion. So let's get started. Our first guest today is Andreas. Andreas, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm great. Thanks for having me.
Thank you for joining us. So, Andreas, please tell us a bit about yourself and Weave.
Yes, so I'm Andreas. I'm the CTO of Weave. My journey in crypto started around 2017 with the first rise of DeFi also. Lost a couple of money in the space, had my experience with it, met some really amazing people and started building Weave. And Weave tries to revolutionize personal investing by combining social trading with advanced decentralized capabilities. And I think we are very, very well placed for this kind of talk right here.
Okay, Andreas, thank you. Thank you. That's why we invited you, basically. Thank you for joining.
Thank you very much.
So our next guest today is Ben from Nakapad. Ben, hi, how are you?
Yeah. Hey, how are you? How's things? Great to be
I'm
here.
doing great.
Thanks for inviting me. Yeah, this sounds like a good one. I'm looking forward to jump into this one. Yeah, sure. I can give a short brief about myself. I'm a CMO and product manager at Necopad. Been in the space for quite some time, around since 2016, 8 years, which feels like 80 years when you're in Web3. And Necopad, what are we? We're really looking to position ourselves as the next generation of blockchain launchpad. So we offer support from really A to Z. We're more of a incubator plus launchpad. So what that means is obviously you'll have full access to the team at Necopad. You'll have full access to our strategic partners, and that can range from tech, legal, marketing, help with liquidity, our VC network. But I think our biggest differentiator between other launchpads is we really focus on transparency and longevity within the space. So other projects launching with us will have their business use cases fully vetted, their team fully vetted. And another big thing is, for example, liquidity on the launchpad itself. You're not going to be able to rug pull. There's going to be a multi-sig system in place for any project launching with us. So that's really to protect any of our retail investors and community members, which we're very adamant about doing. But yeah, I can take about it for hours, but that's just a very short intro about Necopad.
Okay, Ben, thank you. Thank you for introducing it to us. So, our next guest for today is Grigory. Grigory, hi, how are you?
Hello, everyone.
Hello.
Happy to be here.
Thank you for joining us.
Nice to meet you all. Yeah. And of course, crypto world right now is a quite dangerous place, very interesting and quite dangerous. And we with Cyberscope are trying to make it safer. So I'm the business development manager here in Cyberscope, and I mostly work with for the market, doing all the research, and presenting myself as the frontline of the company. So it's easier for me to see what's happening really here, all the vulnerabilities and the risks, and all the very very dangerous things that people can face here. So I think our mission is make it quite safer And we, as a cyber security providers in Web3 world, you'll probably be able to see our badges under some audited tokens on CoinMarketCap or some other places. And this is our missions. Yeah. So it was a bit long introduction. We will be happy to dive deeper into all details during our next conversation. Thank you.
Okay, Grigori, thank you for joining us and thank you for introducing yourself and the Cyberscope. So, our next guest for today is Lawrence from Adlunum. Sorry. Lawrence, hi, how are you?
Hi, I'm good. Thank you for inviting me. Yeah, I'm from another launchpad. I just heard one launchpad guy on here. So I'm a computer scientist and economist, and I'm the co-founder and CTO of Adalunum, which is a launchpad. We originally did another launchpad back, which was Paid Network, years ago, and we were always looking for a better way to attract good investors to the product launches, and yeah, so we came up with a concept of engage to earn. So the more that you're able to participate and get engaged with the project, excuse me, the bigger allocation you get to the project, which makes you less of a risk as kind of a short-term holder of the token. So that's what we do, and it's good to be here. I've been involved with the uh, internet since its conception. I helped design and write TCP/IP protocol, and so I've been a protocol designer for many years. And Web3 is now what I do for the last like almost 9 years. And yeah, so I'm enjoying it. Thank you for having me.
Thank you for joining us today and thank you for introducing yourself. We are very excited to hear what you have to say. And last but not least, we have Vlad today. Yes, Ben, did you want to say something?
I was going to say, I worked at Master Ventures as well. I worked with Master Ventures. And I was kind of a little bit involved with Pay Network, very slightly. Just wanted to drop that in quickly.
Okay.
Oh, cool. Yeah, that must have been after we launched it. Okay.
Okay, thank you. So last but not least, we have today with us Vlad from All Domains. Vlad, hi, how are you?
Hello there. I'm pretty good. Another busy day in Web3. So happy to be here. I'm to do a bit of an introduction on myself. I'm Vlad Tony, one of the co-founders of All Domains. I'm actually a tech co-founder and CTO. What All Domains does is Web3 domains and Web3 identities, basically. We do anything currently on Solana, but soon to expand on other blockchains. Like really, we expanded the capacity to do anything on most blockchains. We are what's called like a social primitive, an identity infrastructure project. And another thing that we've done is actually we've also done real world asset tokenizing, basically tokenization of Web2 domains. So yeah, I mean, this is me, this is us.
Okay, Vlad, thank you for introducing yourself. As I said previously, we have a great lineup of guests, and let's dive into questions. Vlad, while you're here, let's start with you, if it's okay.
Yeah, I'm here.
So the most important and at the same time basic question would be about the key differences between Web 2 and Web 3. And would you explain to us why is Web 3 considered a revolutionary step forward for the internet?
So I'm actually going to start with what brought me here and how I fell in love with this space. I think I'm going to say like 4 years ago. That's when I joined the Web3 space. It's actually building primitives, and I'm not just going to say what we do. So like identity primitive or social primitives. It's also about the DeFi side, right? Building all these kind of cool features. So like in my heart, I'm a technologist, right? So I love how DeFi interacts with this, how multiple protocols like interact with each other. There's no, yeah, I mean, everyone says this is decentralized, right? But decentralized on a tech level also does. And how many, you know, amazing things you can build here, you can do here, you can play with here. I think at the moment, so these are like the two spaces that are the what's called the fastest evolving are AI and this space, because it provides the freedom to do, I mean, again, financial primitives, social primitives, gaming primitives, all this, and the fact and how they work together compared to the Web2 world, where most of them are closed or encapsulated in a specific project. There's no interaction, or it's very hard to do. Here, they're basically built from the startup, right?
Okay, Vlad, thank you. Also, if anyone has anything to add, they want to ask maybe a previous speaker or to just expand on the answer, please chime in.
Yeah, I will. So I think it's good when you talk about Web 2 and Web 3. Is what was Web 1, right? So it helps you differentiate. So to me, having developed the original protocols for Web 1, 2, and now some of the protocols 3. So Web 1 was basically an unrouted internet. Back in the day when the internet used to just travel around at night, and you downloaded the portion of the internet that you wanted on your computer, usually a server at a company, something like that. So that was unrouted. So if you sent an email to someone, you had to know every stop that it was going to make to get to that person. Then when we implemented TCP/IP around 1991 and 2, that was the routing. So transmission control protocol, internet protocol, which allows routers to sit there and direct things based on a domain name, or actually in the end it's an IP address, right? So and the router knows, I know the next router to get to, so you don't have to know every single hop that you're going through to get to somewhere. The great invention of Web 3 is actually and that was Web 2, so that was a copy machine. All it did was copy. You could even in Web 1 you could copy things. You could take a picture and copy it and send it to somebody. It was a copy. It was a copy, but there was never the concept of the asset um, being uncopyable. Okay. So what happened with Web3? We had digital assets that are uncopyable. So all of a sudden, the ability to create something that you can't copy. So I can create a Bitcoin, one Bitcoin, and you can't copy it. It belongs to somebody. So that's kind of my definition of Web 1, 2, and 3. And I think they're all great inventions of them in themselves. But the last one is just mind blowing. It's the ability to create an asset on the block. And it was the blockchain that did it. It's what supports it and makes the assets uncopyable. So anyway, that's just a little bit to add to that important question. Thank you.
Thank you, Lawrence.
These are all amazing points. And I think this shows how great the Web3 space is, that we actually have so much to talk about this question. And I would like to add what's, for me, another point is that Web3 just simply puts the user in charge. And I think this is a paradigm shift from Web2 and what we've seen before, and gives the user control instead of the company. And if it's a fully decentralized approach, there are a couple of benefits. For example, like there is no kill switch, which can be triggered by the entity, by a centralized entity. We have a lot of techies here, so I guess everyone heard the news that the Google shortener will discontinue. And this is something which a lot of people are concerned about. You can only discontinue services if something is centralized and belongs to one entity. In the Web3 space, if done correctly and the most crucial infrastructure actually operates on-chain, you don't have this problem. So even if a product fails, and let's stick with a simple example, you still have money in a smart contract and the website is down, you can just simply interact with the chain, retrieve your money, and it's not that everything is gone. This access and this control by the user is something which we really need to understand how important that this is. This can also become dangerous, but also what kind of opportunities come with this and what amazing things we can build out of it.
Okay, Andres, thank you. Thank you. I think that pretty much summarizes everyone's point of view. So let's move on to the second question. Ben, you ready?
Yeah, work away.
Yeah, so could you explain to us how can Web3 enhance user privacy and data ownership compared to traditional web?
Yeah, I suppose maybe a little bit to add on to the last question. I think if we're being honest, why a lot of people are in Web3 is because it can be very lucrative at times. For sure, it created some generational wealth for some people, but even for perhaps the younger generation, why it can be attractive is they feel that maybe in the traditional Web2 space, but even in the real world, they feel that the older generation or some other more prestigious class of people have monopoly in the system. So it's a little bit of kind of rebellion and some sort of an escape from late stage capitalism. That's maybe just to kind of add on to that last question there. But yeah, enhanced privacy and data ownership in Web3. Well, for me, a big thing is maybe not so much now, but maybe 1 or 2 years ago, you had a couple bank collapses in America. People couldn't withdraw their money. There was a bank run, and that was a little bit of a wake up call for me. So since then, I don't keep too much money in the bank, and I don't trust them anymore too much. That's why I kind of moved most of my funds on chain, and that's I really like the fact that I do have control over my funds, my private keys. But yes, it is also a huge responsibility that I think people need to consider as well. And yeah, I suppose that's going to really to start off. But obviously, there's also your identity as well. But yeah, I mean, that's kind of just to start off the conversation.
Okay, Ben, thank you. If anyone has anything to add, please chime in on the question.
I think if we talk about comparing to Web 2, we also need to acknowledge that Web 2 is a black box. Most of the time, a big factor in Web 2 is trust. And we're saying, oh yeah, the company is too big to mess with your data. But in the end, you don't know that. You need to trust. Past results have shown us that not everyone is as trustworthy as we would like it to be. And the biggest difference in that is then again that in Web3, you get to decide who utilizes your data. If we talk about sticking with the monetary example and simply funds, you can completely decide which protocol or which application is capable of interacting with funds. It's easy to revoke that usage, which is also another key aspect. And it's also very easy to verify where your data is used, where that connection is made. And this is, for me, I am, in my understanding, one of the biggest features which people might not see, but we're talking about assets, but data and user data is one of the strongest assets also in the current space. And giving that power back to the user is what everyone is talking about. And we have the opportunity here to accomplish that goal and to make it very easy in the same approach, basically.
Thank you, Andreas. I completely agree with you. Anyone else? Or should we move on to the next question?
I wanna say something here. So this is something that we all need to be careful of. I mean, I see a trend currently and what's it called, protocols becoming more and more like the traditional ones. And we need to be, whenever we build something, we need to actually what's called try not to fall into this trap. So what's called permissionless data, right? Not permissionless, or self-custody of data, self-custody of funds, self-custody. I mean, again, when I came to this space, this was fascinating for me. Exactly what you said, Ben, and what you're saying here, Andres. But the thing is that the space is evolving, and like my opinion is that I see certain protocols that become what's called more of a hybrid between the Web2 world and the Web3 world. Another thing that to notice here, and that I've noticed here is, yeah, we have the what's called the crypto fans and the what's called cyberpunks, right? We are here. We are what's called the technologists, the futurists that love this space. The thing is, as more and more people join the new generation of crypto adopters and users don't notice this. And I mean, this is something that probably I'm going to talk about later, is the fact that the more and more what's called user apps or consumer apps or like normal apps are built, these kind of things are hidden, and people don't see what you're saying here. Don't see the fact that this is actually a what's called a self custody type thing, right? Yeah.
Thank you, Vlad. Yeah.
Yeah, just to add on that really quickly, I think that's a very good point. And this is when you said it's can also be dangerous. The point is that with this or this amount of control for a user comes also great responsibility. What we also need to acknowledge, maybe if you're talking about consumer protocols, this is the part where specific approaches like smart accounts, we have quite a move in technology here, is very important. If a user does not want to mess with it, these kind of things, if not done correctly, not explained correctly, maybe not abstracted correctly, could even become a hurdle. So this is like this kind of, it's a blessing and also a danger. We are very early, as you said, and we are building something here, but this means also we have the responsibility to do it right and to make sure that people coming in are actually amazed by the space and want to involve with it, and not say, oh yeah, this becomes way too complicated. Why do I need to learn this, this, and that? And why it's not as easy as Web 2. And I agree with you that a couple of protocols are taking the least amount of resistance approach here and maybe even going more of a centralized route. But I believe we can achieve a great user experience without sacrificing on the benefits of Web 3.
Okay, Andreas, thank you. Thank you for adding on that. I'm sorry, anyone else?
Again, I think I totally agree with Andreas. Actually, great notice about the responsibility. That was the idea that was in my mind when I was trying to understand how to better represent it. And I think Uncle Ben helps us here. And yeah, the good part is that many people are now moving from the traditional Web 2 solutions to Web 3 solutions. And this is not the place that I already get used to when they just can do a transaction by hitting a button or very, very simple sign-in options. Web 3 doesn't work like that. The workflows are harder and you need to be very attentive. And the good part is that as many people come to the space, the overall awareness of the audience and of the users grows, which can definitely have a very, very positive impact in the development of the Web3 space. So I think in a few years, we'll remember these times as the old savage ways when everything was quite hard and not understandable, not usable. And here we go. I think this is the second chance when a hard work can turn into a new evolution.
Okay, Grigori, thank you. Judging by the reactions from Vlad, everyone, I think, agrees with you. Now let's move on to the next questions about the dApps. Andreas?
Yes.
You're ready to tell us about some promising use cases of dApps?
Sorry, can you repeat the question?
Yeah, could you tell us what are some promising use cases of dApps in industries such as finance, healthcare, etc.?
Yeah, sorry, my audio just broke. I was not sure if it's my connection completely dying. That's a very good question, and we have a couple of different fields. So I don't want to shill too much about ourselves. I would say like Weave is a promising example of decentralized finance. The goal in decentralized finance will definitely be to give users access to this field in the first place, allowing people with a very low entry barrier to participate in different areas which they did not have access before. And we've seen decentralized finance starting very childish, if you can call it like that. We had our first, like everyone remembers, the rise of Uniswap v2, Sushi Swap v2 clones, AMMs, lending borrowing protocols, all these kind of things, which are great. And then we're seeing more and more approaches on real world assets right now. And this is where we also see also traditional finance maybe is fearing that approach a little bit. And we're not talking about only stocks here, but also representing like gold, silver, but also agriculture assets, for example. And these kind of things will become very, very interesting. And again, by empowering people to getting access to this kind of areas without maybe even a middleman, way cheaper and globally, like everyone can participate. This, of course, taking the regulators out of the equation there. But we, as the question implies, there are other fields which need to be explored, like healthcare, in my opinion, could drastically convert to what we're seeing right now. First of all, accessibility will be a great aspect with Web3. Also, what Web3 can provide is standardized access, which we are lacking quite a lot in that field. I know that from personal experience and how difficult it actually is to pivot in this kind of field. And if some big player is already there, they are dictating how everything goes. And with a more decentralized, standardized approach, we can battle that. And what we've not been talking about yet is zero knowledge solutions, which can, especially in healthcare, when we're working with sensitive information, provide a great way of sharing data without leaking too much of it, without completely sharing everything, well, maybe too many informations, and just protect your sensitive information on that part. And then the other example for this is supply chain management. And this is where the aspect of transparency of Web3 is a very big win for this field. Transparency is something which supply chains struggle with. We've seen, coming back also to regulators, where we try to bring in transparency by laws, by different kind of approaches. And a decentralized approach can really help in that case. And also, in the end, build up competition. If the field, no matter where, is accessible for more people, this means that competition can also arise way easier. It's not as hard as to stomp maybe someone new who's building something amazing, but is threatening your piece of cake. And so often in traditional fields, it's way easier to just shut this competitor down than instead of seeing what this competition brings and how the space can improve from this kind of competition. And I would say that these are the points which are, for me, quite important when it comes to this different fields and applications.
Okay, Andreas, thank you so much. It was a very passionate speech, to be honest. Anyone has anything to add to that? Any dApps use cases?
Well, obviously, gaming is one, but the DeFi area, decentralized finance, is obviously the huge one. Whether it's a DEX or borrow and lending like Aave or Compound or one of those guys, or and yeah, so that any place where you're able to send an asset that you wouldn't cross border transfer of wealth, anything like that. But yeah, so he said it all except for gaming. So I'd add gaming to that, where you can own your assets of the game yourself. And yeah, that pretty much covered it.
Thank you, Lawrence. Yeah.
One thing, sorry to interrupt. One thing to add there. Which country was it now that apparently had their voting rigged or interfered? Was it Argentina or
Venezuela.
Venezuela?
Venezuela.
Yeah, yeah. I think that's one more thing that we could probably add onto the list, like developing some decentralized voting systems for government, just to really create that secure, transparent, tamper-proof electoral process, and even maybe it should be implemented in America now, coming up with the elections soon. I think that's something that we could I think we should like focus on as well. And also, I don't think decentralized science was mentioned as well. That's, I think, an industry to look out for as well. That could be interesting as well. Just to add my 2 cents, but we don't have to stay on this question for too long.
Yes, thank you, Ben. Actually, I think, I don't know if everyone else agrees with me. We would like to hear more about decentralized science, if you could tell us.
Yeah, I'm probably not the best person to ask because I just started researching them. I didn't even hear about that term until not too long ago, so I still definitely need to do some more research about it. But what I do know from the very short info that I saw about it is some scientists they struggle with funding, right? So the issue that some doctors or scientists have is they can only get funding from big pharma or already well-established pharmaceutical companies, and or for example from governments where they're only looking to for kind of like a certain they want a certain thing to be proven by scientists. For example, like one thing that turned out to be a fraud recently was obviously the food pyramid, right? The food pyramid turned out to be a scam. It was paid for by lobbied from a big food manufacturers in the U.S. and they lobbied the government and the scientists to provide this fake food pyramid where the grains are very important. And other actually healthy foods aren't so important. So that's just very quickly just to kind of skim through that topic. But yeah, I'm still learning about it. And I think it's a rabbit hole that is really interesting to jump down on. And I think that's something that we should still, we can still focus on. So yeah, hopefully we'll be able to launch some cool DeFi project at Nakapad or you guys at Lunum. So I think there's still so much industries that are undiscovered. Like yes, we have GameFi, yes, we have DeFi, but I think if we can, we should focus on other things as well that really improve the quality of life of the people in the world. Maybe that sounds a little bit too cliche, but that's just what I think anyway.
Yes, Ben, thank you for explaining that to us. I actually read about these situations with food and how it affects like brain health, etc. So thank you for telling us about that. That would take a great shift of power to make that happen. And let's move on to the next question. We've already touched a bit on DeFi integration into the Web3 ecosystem, but let's expand. Grigori, are you up for it?
Yeah, sure. Actually, it happened that the Web3 was built around, and the cornerstone of the Web3 is this decentralized finance in this way, or DeFi, because everything becomes developing when it get touched the money, like every time. And the good thing is that as the many things are really automated here, like if we watch about how the smart contracts work, how they handle all the transactions, how they can keep it both fast and both transparent for some people who can know how to read everything. Uh, this is really opens up really great opportunities for the new financial products like decentralized exchanges, the liquidity pools, yield farming, and many other things. And the idea here is that um, many crypto people really identifies themselves as revolutionaries against the total and global control. And the mood of that is like here because we see many cases when our personal data is being used, stolen, tracked, and so many other things. And that's why Web3 it's about freedom. It's about securing your own assets, your personal data, but still be eligible to do the transactions and to participate into the ecosystem. And this is the good part because many people are able to live their lives. For example, if we take about so-called underbanked people who cannot, or even populations who cannot perform everything without being fully eligible for the Web3 world, Web2 world, sorry, can do really enter Web3 world and proceed with everything. So this is the idea of giving the power for just from a few parties back to the people. So something like this.
Okay, Grigori, thank you. Does anyone have anything to add on the topic of DeFi integration? Okay, I will take that as a no, and let's move on to the next question. Lawrence, back to you if you don't mind.
Yes, go ahead.
Could you tell us what are the main technological challenges facing the Web3 adoption and how developers working to overcome those challenges?
Yeah. So it's a completely different kind of user experience, and for people to, that they can understand transferring a picture to you on the internet or email or message, but they can't right now. It's not like, and especially I think the older you are, the harder it is to get, even if you've been in technology, is to understand that the asset, transferring an asset involves a private key, and the use of that private key could be either custodial or non-custodial. I think that, everybody says not your key, not your coin. But at the end of the day, if you're 65 years old, you may not, or let's say you're 80 years old and you want to own Bitcoin, uh, and you can't really like see very good or something, you may want an ETF, a spot ETF, to have that asset, but in a non-direct way. So to directly own your assets, and have custodial responsibility of those assets, I think is the big challenge, because all of a sudden you've got to think. I'll never forget when I first saw a QR code that was representing my public key and private key. Actually, I'm not sure it was representing my private key, but I think it was my public key. But it's like, how does that work? How is that possible? And I think for the younger people, it's probably as the generations move on, it's going to be a lot easier, because they're just going to get it. Like, I've got to have a wallet. The first thing it's going to want to do is connect to my wallet. I understand that I'm responsible for that. I may not want responsibility, and in some cases, so there's different. There's going to be different levels of custodial and non-custodial type, and then different levels of you interacting with your wallet. I think those are the challenges. And from a user perspective, user interface perspective, user experience, you've got to know how to deal with a wallet, how to if you're gonna do gaming, and want to own your assets, you're gonna have to know, well, it may look like it's custodial, but it's non-custodial. You know, I'll give you an example. A friend of mine came to me and he had assets, Bitcoin assets that his brother had bought before he died, and he had it on Coinbase, but he didn't know if it was a Coinbase wallet or a Coinbase exchange, or he had to. So I had to walk through with him and try to figure out what was the Coinbase wallet that he actually had, which we couldn't believe that the guy had enough knowledge to move it into a wallet. So that's kind of I think that's the focus, and I'm sure every other people have something to add there, but from being in technology for a long time, that was sometimes it's hard to get your head around something that has actually changed fundamentally, and that's one thing that has. So that's kind of my take on it, but I'd like to hear everybody else say what they think.
Yeah, I think you kind of touched on that. User experience is something that we focus on at Necapad as well. I mean, you really want to have that nice kind of Apple-like smooth, super easy to use and learn very quickly interface. So that's really something that we try to focus on at Necapad. Apart from that, I think I speak to a lot of different projects, and what everybody is saying that their biggest challenge is onboarding new users, which I suppose it makes sense. Really, how can you onboard new users? Definitely, games seems to be working. Gamified aspects, whether on social media or in a different way, or play to earn. But one project that I work with is they're actually developing a game where within this game they also have kind of, it's the way they explained it. I explained it, and actually I'm not even sure I can or if I'm allowed to. But the main thing is that they really it's marketing and ads in a game with so I can hear myself.
We can hear you well.
Yeah. So actually, I had a really good point, but I completely forgot, and now I'm not too sure what I can say as well, because I did sign an NDA in relation to how their game works. So I'll probably skip this one, to be honest.
Okay, Ben, thank you for joining. So, Andreas, Vlad, Grigori, do you guys have anything to add to that?
Yes. So I think what we as developers can also do, we can talk about the technological achievements. Wallets is one, even block explorers did not exist in this kind of way they exist now. And now we're moving even away to a more decentralized solution. Like block explorers right now are centralized. Don't know if many people even know that. All the Ethereum improvement proposals which have been created, how amazing this technology moves and everything. But what we need to understand is one of the strongest assets we have to overcome these problems is education. And we need to explain to people why the space is different. Like a lot of people who are new might be saying, oh yeah, why don't you just push an update? Why does it not work like that on the server? People might not know that from a more technical perspective, every line of code costs gas, in theory, to put it very simple. And our responsibility is, yes, great user experience, and hand in hand with that is educate people, make it easy to understand. And if that's done correctly, I think that's a very good approach to overcome these challenges we are facing right now.
Thank you. Thank you, Andreas.
I want to add something here too.
Yeah.
So first thing, yeah, UX still sucks. Thank you, Ben. So yeah, and thank you. I mean, it's the truth. Like, come on, like we're still not there yet, right? But this is actually what's called, because most of the people that came first were devs, like hardcore devs building this shit. Then you had to attract more and more people. There's another problem, like the space is still perceived as scammy, and that actually makes the good, let's say, products or the other people that you need to build a great product. And pun intended here. Because the space is still perceived as scammy, a lot of great people don't come to the space and don't get jobs here and don't start to work on shit here. So but I think that time is gonna solve this. So the more we build, the more interesting stuff we build, the more good stuff we try to build, and the more normal consumers and users come to this place, like let's say for gaming, right? They don't come specifically for the monetary value of something. Yeah, maybe some of them do, but some don't. The more they used to this, the more the products here again get built better. The space is perceived as something that's real. I mean, we all know it's real because we're here and we've been here for a long time. But the more this changes, the more again good people and again product managers, like good devs, UI, UX people, and there's brilliant ones in the Web2 world, not as much in here. The more these issues get solved, right? That's how I see this. So every kind of issue here is going to be solved by time. Plus the fact that again, because it's perceived as scammy, regulators. I mean, this is something that nobody said. It's also regulation, right? We're not there yet with it, and it's what's it called. Everything here is reflexive, right? The more we build, the more people come. The more interesting stuff, again, like games we build, the more people come from all places. And the more people use this, the more even regulators actually, and the image of the space changes.
Okay, Vlad, thank you. First thing I want to add, I try to keep myself from talking about Turnpike, but now I can't stop myself. At Turnpike, what we do is we provide access. Sorry, I just heard myself also. What we do is we provide access through a simple application to various Web3 protocols, and for users, they don't have to learn anything about these protocols. They just can access it through Turnpike, and they don't have to learn about everything else. And also, I wanted to add is that maybe we should be easier on ourselves. I mean, the Web3 is just a fetus comparing to other industries we are comparing it to.
Absolutely.
Okay, thank you for such a great discussion. Let's move on. I actually wanted to ask Vlad this question, but Vlad, if you're up to it, could you tell us in
I'm
what
here.
ways? Yeah. Could you tell us in what ways can Web3 contribute to creating more equitable and inclusive digital economy?
Okay, that's a very hard question. Just even a very quick question. Okay, so can you please repeat it? I need some time to think about this.
Yes, I was asking about how Web3 can contribute to creating a more equitable and inclusive digital economy. We touched on the topic a bit before. If you have anything to add, maybe.
So I think Ben actually mentioned this, right, with unbanked
Yes.
and people. I mean, people without access to a bank account can actually join the space, and they don't need everything that you need in a Web2 world to join and play with this, and let's go earn or do whatever you want here. So this is something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, did you guys ever try to open a bank account? If you moved country and try to open a bank account, it can be pretty annoying sometimes. Yeah.
That's
Not yet.
basically it on the question.
Especially if you're and what really complicates everything. Like for example, as an American citizen, it really like try investing in Europe. It kind of complicates everything as well, which is so annoying. I don't even bother with it anymore. that's why I'm just fully in Web3, to be honest. Like, it's just there's just so many different hurdles to jump through. Like, yes, you could say that the UX is not great for Web3 yet, but I think I think if you kind of think about hurdles that jump through in in real life or in Web2, I think once people realize it, they'll actually see that you know, in Web3, just kind of writing down your private key or connecting your MetaMask isn't actually that big of a deal.
Okay, Ben, thank you. Andreas, Grigori, Lawrence, do you guys have anything to add, Vlad? Okay.
Well,
Ben,
I think, I mean, on his last statement, it's like, yeah, well, it's a little bit more than just than connecting your MetaMask. It's like, okay, to me, one of the things that we're overcoming is it would be like if with all the different networks and I mean, there's 1,000 different blockchains out there. All of them, you know, they don't all, they're not all EVM chains. They're different, you know, Solana, which is not EVM, and so there's all kinds of like confusing things that I think as a user, like, okay, if I'm going to connect to Solana. Well, like for example, it would be like when the internet first came out, and then so or the World Wide Web came out, and I want to learn about horses. I would just go to the search engine and type in horses or something like that. But now I have to go to the horse network. I have to know how to connect to the. So if I want to own the Ton the Ton coin, which by the way is interesting, if everybody should check that out. I'm not shilling it, but it's fascinating. It's tied in with Telegram, and it's a completely different network. It's not there. It's a completely different wallet. It's there's it's yeah. I wish it was just that simple. I mean, I can't even hold Bitcoin in my MetaMask, right? So it's just there's a ways to go here, and I that wasn't exactly the question that we went into, but I just wanted to take off a little bit on the last statement that he made. So just adding that in. Yep.
thank you, Lawrence.
You're welcome.
Wait, are you guys not supposed to store Bitcoin on my MetaMask? I messed up then. Oh no.
Do what?
I'm just kidding. I'm just kidding.
Okay, are we ready to move on to the next question?
Yeah, let's go.
Okay. Let's talk about the regulatory hurdles. I think the best person to answer this question would be actually Grigori, as you are the closest on the lineup to talk about that.
Sure,
Could you
sure,
please,
with pleasure.
could you please tell us what are the potential regulatory issues for Web3 technologies, and how can the industry work with regulators to grow and ensure compliance at the same time?
Sure, sure. Yeah, of course. The main reason is that our nowadays all the jurisdictions that we have nowadays are not compatible with doing the regulations on Web3 world in a proper way. So, in other words, there are no exact measurements and tools so that you can control the Web3 world. That's why the Web3 is still under so-called gray area, because as the jurisdiction don't know what to do with it, they're trying to struggle with, try to win it. So this is right now is this is the negotiation process. They're gonna. Well, I just forgot how exactly they said. There was a really cool saying about when you can't admit something, you start denying it until you admit it. So not the word accurate saying, but yeah. And the problem is that, and we are not really connected. So for example, if in one country you can somehow do some regulations that are connected to the Web3, like in Venezuela, in the example that we talked about, and the other countries cannot do that, we start to having a bit imbalance throughout the countries that participate in all decentralized world. So until we have all these obstacles before getting really transparent and really global peer-to-peer blockchain connection, we would still be under the same great area. So another problem here is that many people who are entering the Web3 space don't worry about the security measurement and many other things. I know people who don't even memorize their seed phrase, and they think that they're going to sign in just with a simple button like they do in their regular programs, but it doesn't work like that. So the main reason here, as there are not measurements, official measurement for the security, so the blockchain technology itself is not secure, as the people who are not really educated can really do themselves some harm because they are just do not know how does it work. And as there is no an official global or even political regulation that can approve that everything is secured, we'll see what we see now. So right now, the only solutions that we do provide as well, like the smart contract audits, the KYC, and everything that is related to verifying the businesses, are the third-party solutions. So we need to work together to create something global, a procedure or a measurement way they can really people to get connected to this part and interact with the Web3 more secure in more secure ways.
Thank you, Grigory.
I can add something to that. This is kind of my soapbox with regulation. I mean, because there's a lot of people in the world, in our world, our Web3 world, that think regulation is bad. Regulation is bad because, well, there's not going to be any. There should be nobody telling me what to do, and that sort of thing. So that's just simply not the case, because if you think of a new technology, when electricity was invented as a usable product, um, in the back whenever it was in the late 1800s, there was no regulation, so there was no, because they didn't understand it. So people were running electrical wires into buildings in New York City, and buildings were burning down, and all kinds of stuff was happening. And so as they figured out, okay, so we better regulate this. How you need a certain kind of wire to run the electricity. You need certain kind of things to do this. Yes, overregulation is bad, but it protects us. So for instance, for all the exchange collapses, that these were all unregulated, Mt. Gox, FTX, all of these things, because it was a new technology that hadn't nobody they don't understand it, and it takes a while for people to get it. So regulation's not bad. It just has to be done correctly, and it's going to take time. And I'm here in the United States, and it's coming along. It's they're starting to understand it now. The other big issue with regulation is money, because uh, countries want it challenges the traditional central banking of money. So all of that has to be dealt with on that level, and now you're starting to step on toes. So you're stepping on the toes of the government, who is able to create money from thin air and give it out to people and get people elected and stuff like this. So it's a yeah, it's going to take time. It's going to take people that, we've got a big lobbying, everything in the United States is done from lobbying. So all of us together helping to input into that, it's not a bad thing, is my soapbox on it. It just needs to be done right. You don't want to overregulate it. But 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 regulation is not bad. And it's coming along, but it's just amazing to me how people just don't understand it, and then they all of a sudden they're against it. Like we have part of our political system in the United States is against it, in part, and now the people that are starting to get it. In fact, we've got a senator in Wyoming who I can't remember her name. It's you could just look it up, but I guess her son gave her Bitcoin back in 2014 or 13, and it's now worth over $1 million, and she's a big proponent of Bitcoin, and the government using it as a reserve and all of this stuff just because she had experience with it. When then you got Jamie Dimon, who's the CEO and chairman of Chase Manhattan, saying it's nonsense. It doesn't work, and everybody's going to get ripped off. So it's an interesting kind of time to be in, and for all of us to be able to witness what's going on, and if you can contribute to it. And help if you're in that area, then it's going to be great. So
Thank you, Lawrence. Thank you for bringing a political perspective into it. So, do you guys have anything to add?
I just want to say I loved your answer. So with what's called electricity example and everything, I'm going to remember this and use it going forward about the what's called the risks and mitigating the risks through regulation, and about the fact that we are currently, I mean, some of us are stepping on toes with this, right? They're basically a lot of the the existing financial systems depend on how it works, right? And this is disruption. But what I'm noticing, hopefully, since it's happening, this is the reason that I give to this, is the fact that traditional financial system actually, or the more and more investment companies or funds actually invest here through either ETFs or even directly or through sub companies. And that's also something, because once they get exposed to this, they do the lobby, right? So I mean, it's happening. I think it's still going to take a while, but more and more. And then because the financial system again exists and works how it works right now, the more people get exposed, the more it's going to work, and we're going to be, and what we're building here, it make more and more sense to everyone, like it does to us. Yeah, I mean, I think that's about it. That's just what I want to say.
Thank you, Vlad. If everyone's ready, let's move on to the last question. My last question I want to address to Andreas. Andreas, you ready?
Yes.
Could you please tell us, to finalize this discussion, how can businesses and developers prepare for the Web3 transition, and what steps should they take to leverage the opportunities effectively?
That's a very good question. And I think it starts with understand what Web3 actually is. I've seen, and I guess every one of us seen, quite a lot of buzzwords being thrown around, and people saying, oh yeah, we're moving to Web3. And the worst example might even be them setting up like a side chain, not changing anything, having still their centralized approach, not utilizing any of these aspects, but just for the sake of throwing the buzzwords out, just proclaiming that they have done it. This is, of course, not the way to go. And since it's quite different to the Web2 approach, I believe that one of the key things to make this transition possible is collaboration. And be it collaboration with experts, researchers, or infrastructure providers. You don't need to invent everything yourself. There are a lot of smart people, way smarter than me, I don't want to speak for others, who have done a lot of the groundwork for us, and we should profit from it. And everyone coming into the space and trying to convert and move to Web3 should utilize what we have learned so far. This is very, very important, and you need to understand that collaboration is not a sign of weakness, but rather in the long run improving the space. Like I always like to say, collaboration over isolation, and I strongly believe in that. And in the end, it's if you decided that you have strong use cases, you're actually solving a problem with Web3, or you see benefits for your users, you need to formalize what these benefits are and how you can actually achieve by, for example, moving on chain. It's not only about monetary value. We've seen, like, another great example, by the way, is Vlad talking about decentralizing DNS entries, which could be an opportunity to move more into Web3. Decentralized storage. Gamify is a great example for good actors and bad actors. This is a space where you have so many examples how it can be done right and how can it be done wrong. Funny enough, the big companies, without calling any names, are the ones who might not do it in the right way and get an outleash more than anything. But there are a lot of projects who have done it right and provided a lot of value, not only monetary, for the users by moving to Web3. So to put it simply, and the others can add on top of it, I think that research and collaboration are the very first steps you take when your goal is to move to Web3, and see what are the steps required for you in the long run there.
Thank you. Thank you, Andreas. Anyone has anything to add?
There's a good saying, like, do your own research, and it applies to every aspect of Web3 world, even the Web2 world. So that's good. People are gonna learn, and they're gonna be very, very attentive. That's fine.
Okay, thank you. Yeah.
I want to add something here. Sorry, Lawrence, do you want to say something? I saw you. You had the speaker on.
Oh, no,
okay.
I'm fine. Go ahead.
Okay, what I wanted to say is, so this is also, like, you are focusing your question on companies that join the space, or like they're preparing for the space. This is something that's also one of our responsibilities here. So I do agree on the fact that everyone needs to do their own research, but I think we have responsibility as people that are here to make it them. I mean, the Web3 space is so fucking complex sometimes. You need to understand DAOs, or you need to understand, again, like how Bitcoin differs from, let's go, from Ethereum or from Solana, or what's DeFi, what's the lending protocol, how that works, right? What's a CLMM, or what's an AMM, or whatever, right? So we need to make it easier for them through either, again, education, or through simplifying some of these concepts, or even on the tech level, simplify how they might interact with this world. I mean, I'm not going to say like UX on the app level, right? Or on the protocol levels. So it's not just about them; it's also about us. If we want them to come here.
Thank you, Vlad, for such a passionate speech. Well, we can say with great power comes great responsibility. I wanted to say this throughout the whole space. Please continue, Andreas.
Yeah, I was just to add a little bit on top of that. We've been talking about user experience, and that's great from the end product user. But the point Vlad touched on is developer experience. And when we talk about bringing new people in and people try to participate in this space, this is also another part where we can greatly improve on. The developer experience, in my opinion, is also not where it should be right now. That is not applicable to every single protocol and every single infrastructure piece, but still this is something where we need to have a focus on. We need to make sure that people coming in feel welcome, and that it just feels accessible. And this does not matter if it's the end user, developer. We need to be open for everyone and make sure that they have this kind of feeling that they are welcome.
Thank you, Andreas. Well, I believe that's it. So thank you, everyone, for joining us today, and thank you for participating in this discussion. It's been a great discussion, and it was truly enriching for me, at least. I hope it was as enriching for you. So we've talked about the transformative potential of Web3, about enhancing user privacy and data ownership, to the use cases of dApps and challenges we face in technology as developers, as users. And we also discussed how we can work together to overcome those challenges. So the Inside Chat today, I think, highlights the great opportunities for collaborative effort required to realize Web3's full potential. And once again, thank you to our speakers for your valuable contributions, and to all of you listeners for joining us today. Let's stay connected and let's continue to navigate the future of Web3 together. So have a great day, everyone. Thank you so much for joining, and that's it from me.
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you, everyone.
Thanks, everyone.
Thank you.
Thank you, everyone, and bye-bye.